Okay. Um, so having sat outside and had a cup of coffee, I do want to, because this is a very kind of sticky topic, critical thinking, and I'm trying to be as unbiased and neutral as I possibly can when we're lecturing and talking about this stuff. And so my points are not trying to convey some kind of political opinion or some kind of my opinion and have that, you know, I'm right. That's not the point. And sometimes my examples, like I keep talking about Nazis, that has nothing to do with my opinion of Nazis. It's something that just keeps coming up. I don't know, it keeps hitting my head. It's something easy for me to talk about. I am not a Nazi, let me put it that way. And I do think Nazis are evil, or are evil. I guess there are some Nazis around. But I'm not trying to promote some kind of political opinion. What I'm trying to get across is that we should all try to be as objective as we possibly can. And whenever we're making decisions, that we should, again, we talked about bias being one of those things that influence how we want to make a decision, what decision that we would like to make. And we need to be aware of that bias and, you know, try to be as objective as possible. So having said that, if it sounds like I'm pushing some kind of a platform or some kind of an opinion, I am not. I just want you to look at everything objectively, or as objectively as we possibly can, and still be human beings. We all have emotion, and that's completely normal and natural. So emotions come into it. And you know, all of my opinions or opinions, I guess, aren't 100% rationally reasoned out either. So, but I try not to push a point of view. And if it seems like I'm doing so, it's totally not, I don't mean to, okay? So I just wanted to make that kind of disclaimer. So what I actually want to do is I want to start this off with a little bit of a couple of kind of brain teasers to help us exercise our brain a little bit. And so one way to promote problem solving and critical thinking is to challenge our brains a little bit. And so riddles, for instance, are a way to try to think logically. Little brain teasers, things that are or want to confuse our minds. So here's a very simple kind of example of this. If I say a woman gives a homeless person 50 cents, and the woman is the homeless person's sister. I have to read it so I don't screw it up. But the homeless person is not the woman's brother. So how can this be? What's the answer to this?
It's a homeless woman.
Yeah, it means that the person who was homeless, who they gave 50 cents to, is the sister of the person, right? It's not the brother. Oh, by the way, I meant to ask you, and I did ask you, but you tuned out, Patrick, just when I was asking you, where are you now?
I am about 30 miles north of St. George, Utah, at about 4,000 feet.
Okay, so you're in Utah already. Good. How far do you have to go?
We're headed back right now.
Hmm.
We'll be crossing back into Arizona and then Nevada in the next hour.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering. Because he's on the move. So here, let me ask another one. How many birthdays does a typical person have? I'm looking at the chat room. Anybody? Oh, good. You didn't fall for it. Yeah. Excellent. A typical person has one birthday. Because why? Because there's one day you were born on. You were born on one day, right? So what was the tricky part of that? So not 7? No, not 7. So the average person has one birthday. So what's the tricky part of that question? The way it's phrased, right? How many birthdays does a person have implies that they have more than one. Birthdays is plural. I'm asking you how many they have, which implies that there's more than one. Yeah, but and then you know, the definition of birthday isn't actually defined. So if I say that your day of birth, right, how many days of birth does an average person have? And it's 1. You were born on one day. There was a particular day that you were born. It's very difficult to crawl back into the womb and have another birthday. So hopefully that makes sense. Most of you got that one right away. Excellent. Does England have a 4th of July? I'm looking at the chat room. Of course they do. It's the day that comes right after the 3rd of July. They don't have a 4th of July celebration. So, because that's not their Independence Day, right? So we have the 4th of July. So what's the issue with that question? Damn, Robert's like, oh, damn it, they do have a 4th of July. So the tricky bit of that question is, by the way, if I ask that question in a different country, it wouldn't be so hard, right? So if I was in Germany and I say, does England have the 4th of July? They'd say, of course, because we live or most of us have grown up in the US. We attach things to the 4th of July that other people don't. And so when I say the 4th of July, we think fireworks and celebration, and it's a holiday. And so we say, well, no, the English don't do that, right? The question that would be no would be, does England celebrate the 4th of July? Or is there a 4th of July celebration in England? And so we've made an assumption. Why? Because we have an inherent bias. We have an inherent kind of link that we make with the 4th of July. Does that make sense to everybody? I'm looking. Edward said yes, at least it makes sense to him. Okay, good. So let me give you a more difficult one. Or should I give you a more difficult one? Yeah, I have some. So 7 months. So listen, pay attention. 7 months have 31 days in them. 11 months have 30 days in them. So how many months have 28 days in them?
Well,
Very good. And now, these are becoming a little bit easier because you're expecting the question to be a little bit tricky, right? So now we've kind of all, as a group, told our brains, hey, okay, don't go for the obvious answer. Think about this, right? We're already using, or we're setting our brains up to use some critical thinking, right? We're not taking these things just at face value and immediately answering, well, February has 28 days, so the one, right? Yeah, I'm assuming it's like 10 o'clock, almost 11, that it's time for us to be awake. Is it legal for a man in New Jersey to marry his widow's sister? Uh-oh, nobody wants to play on this one. Come on. Okay, so thank you for playing. Don't feel bad because all of you got it wrong. No, it's not, because you cannot marry a dead person. So let me read that question again. Is it legal for a man in New Jersey to marry his widow's sister? His widow means that he's dead, right? So he was, can I spin again? He died, his wife became his widow, therefore he cannot marry her sister. It doesn't really have to do with grammar. It has to do with that we're not dissecting the sentence. Oh, yeah. Now, you're not dumb. It's just that we don't always pay attention. And I pulled that one out because that was the one that I had saved for once our brains were all kind of in this mode. But this one is a little bit more difficult. Here's one that seems to be a math problem. So let's try this. So I'm going to use the whiteboard for this one because I want to show you that, hold on, I got to do this and click on whiteboard and then clear 1030. So here's the question. You're supposed to divide 30 by 1/2 and then add 10. So again, this one is a little bit tricky. So I know that we all fell into the hole of not getting the widow one. So I would like you to play, but that's, and by the way, those of you that have played are excellent, because what's the answer that is the one that people kind of would immediately go, right? You'd go, okay, so 1/2, what's half of 30? 15, and you add 10, and that's 25. But that's not the right answer, right? 25, yeah. Patrick's not looking at the chat room because it'll make him car sick. And why is this difficult? Tell me why this, well, it wasn't difficult for a lot of you, but why could it be difficult? And I'm clicking undo. Tell me why, he said. There are no symbols, that's one. So this is a word question. And this is why it's difficult. Because 1/2 is equal to 0.5, right? So if I said put here 0.5, then this becomes a lot more simple, right? Because then we say, okay, 0.5 goes into 30 how many times? Well, it goes in 60 times. And then I add 10, and that's 70. So really, the issue was with how this was written right here. Does that make sense? And that was the tricky part here.
Would Professor?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be because you said divide, so people would think like, oh, you're trying to divide. They try to divide it by 2 instead of just multiplying it.
Well, again, it's like I said, because it said 1/2 here, divide 30 by 1/2. Our brains go, hey, what's half of 30? It's 15. But if I said divide by 0.5, right, then all of a sudden you go, oh crap, this is math. So how many times does 0.5 go into 30? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's the way the question was written. And because this is the connection that we have to make right here, the thing I'm circling. 1/2 is equal to 0.5. That's the part where you have to think on your own. And that is what was it called? It's called I can't think of it. We just talked about it when we talked about, hold on. When we talked about arguments, I said that that's the logical kind of connection that we have to make. And crap, I can't find the piece of paper that had it on it. The evaluation? No, not the evaluation. It's the, oh, here it is. It's the warrant. This is the warrant. Thank you. That's the bridge between, the one thing and the other thing. Does it make sense? So this is the part that we kind of have to evaluate on our own. Let me clear that. Here's one. And so you got to listen to this fairly closely because it's a riddle. And so it starts off like this. What is the beginning of eternity, the end of time? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me start over. What's the beginning of eternity, the end of time and space, the beginning of every end, and the end of every race? So not only is it a riddle, it's it rhymes. And so, again, we're thinking about how these questions can trick us, right? We're already in that frame. Had I started off with that question, it would have been a lot harder. But the correct answer, you guys have it, and you may have heard it before. E, right? The beginning of eternity is the letter E. The end of time is the letter E. And space is the letter E, I'm sorry. The beginning of every end is the letter E, and the end of every race is the letter E. Ooh, I don't actually know this. Oh, that's a dumb one. I don't like it. What's lighter than a feather but cannot be lifted? it's a bubble. So I don't like that one. How about this one? Two men play, and it could be two women, two people. Let's do it that way. It's already sexist to begin with. Two people play 5 games of chess, and each person wins the same number of games, and there are no ties. So how can that be? Nobody wants to play that one? Let me say it again. Two people play 5 games of chess. Each person wins the same number of games, and there are no ties. Angelina is correct, right? Yeah, they are not playing each other. So the assumption was, because I said that there are 2 people playing chess, that they must be playing each other. And so again, what's important here, or what helps us understand what it is that why these things are good. They were playing Fortnite. Is the riddle itself, or the question, the brain teaser itself. We don't really get anything out of it just by coming up with the answer. We have to analyze why it was difficult to come up with the answer. By the way, even if you got the right answer immediately, we should look at it some more and say, hey, this is trying to get me to come up with a particular answer. What is that answer? Right? So with the one, you can marry, can a man marry his widow's sister? In New Jersey, is it legal for a man to marry the widow's sister in his widow's sister in New Jersey? Right? We kind of screwed that one up, but there's a lot of information in that question, if we analyze it, that's unimportant. Right? Stop, Jordan. So what's unimportant? Is it legal? If somebody's dead, they can't marry somebody else. So it's not, legal is unimportant. Is New Jersey important? Right? No, you can't, no matter where you are in the world, you can't marry your widow's sister because you're dead, right? I'm pretty sure there aren't a whole lot of dead people having marriages, getting married. We don't live in the zombie apocalypse. I guess if we did live in the zombie apocalypse, maybe there would be marriages of dead people. And then maybe legality would come into it. Right? Maybe in New Jersey, zombies are not allowed to marry their widow's sister. So, but in the real world, at least this one, you know, it doesn't matter whether it's New Jersey, and it doesn't matter whether it's legal or not. It might be legal. There might not be a law against it, but it's just impossible to do. So again, when we look at those kind of brain teasers, the thing is to analyze why, what is the pitfall? What is the thing that causes us to come up with the wrong answer? And with the chess problem, it's because it said 2 people were playing chess. If I would have just said some people play chess and they each win 5 games and there are no ties, how is it possible? Well, because the 2 isn't in there, causing our brains to think and make an assumption, it becomes a much easier question. So we have to be careful about the assumptions that we make when we're trying to think critically. And you can see that it's very easy to make assumptions, even if they are, this is not an important question. None of these are important questions. They're just little, how many birthdays does a person have, right? Why are we making an assumption? Because there's an S at the end of birthdays. So that's plural. So we assume the answer must be plural. It must be multiple instead of just one. And when we think about it logically and we say, hey, how many times is a person born? Once, physically. We are all born at least only one time, right? And obviously England has a 4th of July. We already did that one. Okay. So having said that, that's weird. See, this one just is so hard. A man builds a rectangular house. All sides of the house are exposed to the south. A huge bear walks by. What color is the bear? Does anybody know the answer to that one? Blue. Now, Alan said white. Why?
It's a polar bear.
I'm sorry, speak up.
It's a polar bear.
Oh, good for you. Have you heard this one before, or did you figure it out?
I heard it before.
Okay. That's cheating. It's a polar bear. No, I'm kidding. It's a polar bear, right? So, because he's on the North Pole, all sides, so it's a rectangular, it could be a square house, doesn't matter. And all sides of the house face south, right? So you have to be at the very northernmost point. And then if a bear walks by at the North Pole, it must be a polar bear because that's the only kind of bear that lives up there. So it has to be white. Yeah, I don't like it all that much, but he is on the North Pole and you can figure it out. But anyway, so that's enough of my brain teasers for the day. Let's talk about what it is that I'm going to have you do. And again, I will post this. So on our Blackboard page, I guess probably down at the bottom, I'll have an assignments thing, and I'm going to post what it is that I want you to do. And so there'll be instructions, and I'm going to actually have you do, they're not actually for college students, but it's a fact or opinion kind of a worksheet. And so I think you're going to have to download the attachment. But maybe it's easier. Maybe it, well, or maybe not. I'll figure out how logistically we're going to do it. But I'm going to post a couple of worksheets that you'll have to look at, and then you just answer the questions, whether it's fact or opinion. But make sure that you think about it, and remember that facts are things that we can prove objectively, and that opinions are let me try to think of an opinion that isn't offensive to anybody. Classical music is the best kind of music there is, right? That's an opinion. Most classical music, a grizzly bear could be vacationing there. It might be an elf. Santa's workshop. It's Santa's workshop. What was I going to say? Well, you'll figure it out. We're also going to have I want you to do a half-page paper kind of a thing that talks about the 5 signs of groupthink, or are there 6? There are 6. So don't talk about the 5 kinds, the 5 symptoms of groupthink, but the 6 symptoms of groupthink. Basically, tell me what they are, and then tell me how to avoid those things. So you can do it in list form if you want. But think about it. I know that I talked about what they are and I explained what they are, and then I gave you some ways of combating them. But I'm sure that you can come up with more if you think about it a little bit. So I do want you to think about it. Groupthink is in my humble opinion, very bad. So it's something to be avoided, not only in organizations, but in everything, large groups and stuff. So groupthink is very limiting. Yeah, thank you. So and there are plenty of examples of organizational groupthink that caused people to die, like the Challenger explosion, like some other issues. NASA is particularly guilty of this kind of groupthink thing, although not so much the stereotyping and the moral ground, the other symptoms of that. Okay, so we'll do that, and we'll do the worksheet, and then next week we will start talking about programming and problem solving and algorithms and how critical thinking can be applied to creating programs. And then we'll start talking, I think in lab, we'll talk about how to install Python if you haven't already done that. And so we'll get down to the part of the class that is more programming oriented. And we're going to focus a little bit on, or more on, problem solving and then writing programs. So we will be now, from now on, kind of learning not only how to apply critical thinking and problem solving to programs, but also how to write a program. Because we're going to use Python as our language, and we do need to learn how to use Python in order to, do what it is that we need to do. So we'll be starting off with that next week. So it's a short lab today, I think, or as short as it can be. What time did we start? 10:30? It's not that short. So are there any questions? Are there any comments? Anything at all? Like I said, I will post the instructions on Blackboard, and I will send a notification out to everybody when that is done. I'm going to try to do it between labs, but I may not, it may take longer. So it may not be till later on today or tomorrow morning. But like I said, you'll have a week and a half basically to do it. So there's no time pressure here. So everybody chill if it's not done by tonight. Okay. So Patrick, you have a safe trip, and hopefully next time I see you, you'll be home. And yeah, unless you have questions, you can go. Have a good day. Fun lab. It was a little bit fun. Ooh, I can stop recording this.